Season of Defiance has finally came to a close, and being the first season of Lightfall, it was expected to be a bit of a lighter season, and it indeed was. The story revolved around the Shadow Legion's invasion of Earth and taking prisoners, just the same sort of way that last year's season of The Risen tackled the Lucent Brood's invasion of the Earth and the Moon. So it's a very similar theme going between those two seasons, and of course they're both the first season of their related expansion. In this review I'm going to go over the story, the gameplay, the missions, the aesthetics, and the seal, giving my opinions on all of these areas, and I'm going to give it a number at the end because I haven't really done that before. So without further ado, let's get started. The story of Season of Defiance begins just after the initial attack on the Traveller by the Shadow Legion and the Witness. It mainly covers the Shadow Legion invading the EDZ and the Cosmodrome and taking prisoners from these areas, and the Guardian, as well as a few other allies, attempting to, and mainly succeeding, in freeing these prisoners. A few positives about this season's story, which I really enjoyed, were that it built upon two of humanity's main allies, being the Awoken and the Elixni. Of course, it mainly only tackled Marasov and Mithrax, but both of these characters have a very important role to play in the main story of Destiny 2, and it's always a delight to have either of them involved in seasonal content. So that was really enjoyable. It also included Amanda Holiday and Crow, as well as bringing back Devrim K, which is a positive point in his own right, because Devrim has only really been in the game for the Red War. He had a bit of a paragraph to say during Forsaken, but that was even just a text wall, I believe. So this is his first proper dialogue in several years since the game launched, basically. So it's really, really good to see Devrim back. I hope they keep doing that, which it looks like they will, since how Sloane is back next season, so that's very good. I am also very happy that they have continued to tell the story via different sources, such as missions and the battlegrounds. I would like them to sort of mix it up a bit, but I'm glad they at least tell it via multiple sources as opposed to just one source. As for the negatives that I have with the story, one of the big ones is actually Amanda's death. The reason for this is actually going to start off as a positive, because Amanda's death hit really hard to begin with how her death was handled in that mission, as well as the character's reaction to her death immediately afterwards. And whilst this would seem like it'd be a positive point, it goes downhill because I feel as though her death wasn't nearly as prevalent in the weeks following her death. I believe there was only one more week of story after her death, and then there was a finale, and that was it. So it seemed like she died, those characters reacting to it, and then there was just nothing for many weeks on end. And then suddenly there was the finale, but the finale wasn't even mourning Amanda. There was mention of her, but it was more just let's go defeat the Shadow Legion, basically. So I think her death could have been handled way better. The start, how it hit immediately, with the different characters reacting to her, how it was handled in the mission, with Zavala sitting by her body, just in the farm saying devotion, bravery, sacrifice, almost like he was trying to will her into being risen. Overall, whilst it was handled really well to begin with, I think it really had a lot to desire, in the follow-up to it. So I'm kind of at the stage here where I kind of forget that Amanda's dead, to be completely honest. So I feel like it could have been handled way better. We'll see how it's tackled in the following seasons. Maybe it'll be brought up in Season of the Deep and the following seasons. But as for Season of Defiance, I believe there's much that could be desired from how it was handled. Another big negative that I have with the story, which is a commonly reoccurring negative I have with a lot of the seasons, is that they don't really affect the external game. Everything's kind of contained within the season. So in this season, for example, there are pyramid forts in the EDZ and in the Cosmodrome. But if you go to either of these areas in patrol, just normally, they won't be there. And whilst you could argue that's a gameplay thing, I would say it's more story, because it's a story reason why it's there. It doesn't impact the gameplay that it's there. It's just being like, this thing is here because it happened recently in a season. This is the exact same point that I had last year with Season of the Risen, where the Lucent Brood invaded the EDZ and the Moon, and the areas such as the Sludge, the Scarlet Keep, which were invaded and kind of converted apart like a bit into the architecture of the Lucent Brood, didn't change in the patrol. They stayed the exact same as they always have been, and if you go there nowadays, they'll be the exact same. Gone are the days, it would appear, that Rasputin's bunkers would just pop up during a season. Gone are the days of things actually changing within the season. What we get nowadays is the Leviathan appearing, which was great, but we can't go to the Leviathan anymore. We have the Traveller leaving the tower, which is great, but it happens at the very end of the season, and nothing else from that season affected anywhere else in the game, which I think is a bit naff. So whilst they definitely do things which affect the rest of the game, it doesn't happen nearly as often as I would like it to. It doesn't have nearly as much impact as I would like it to. And in this season, it didn't happen at all. So I would love it if they kept doing this sort of thing. The pyramid fort should be in patrol. The farm should stay in the game, but we know for a fact that's not going to happen. And at the end of this year, the farm will disappear, and the pyramid forts will be nowhere to be seen. As for the gameplay, as usual, the weapons were pretty decent. I wouldn't say they were amazing, wouldn't say they were bad, but they were pretty decent. My personal favourites were Perpetualis, Raconteur, and the Royal Executioner. I think I pronounced one of those wrong, but Perpetualis, the auto rifle, was Strand. I really enjoyed using it, and I can see myself using that for many seasons to come, so that's my favourite one from this season. The Battlegrounds were also largely okay. The first and the third ones were really good, and I would thoroughly enjoy them coming up in the Strikes playlist and playing through them after this year's finished. However, the second Battleground could just not exist, and I'd be perfectly happy, because the teleporting mechanic of the boss is extremely annoying. There's a few other things about that Battleground which annoy me as well, which are just aren't coming to mind right now. Battlegrounds 1 and 3, which were the EDZ and the farm one, or the orbital station one, whatever you want to call it, were great. Really enjoyed them. The second one, which was the Cosmodrome one, strong dislike. Don't like it. That would be a strong dislike, not a hate, but a strongly dislike on a multiple choice question. So don't really like it. The Excalibur mission was brilliant. I didn't play it on Legendary, but I played it with a friend. Of course, the reintroduction of Asher Mir, getting Excalibur, all very enjoyable. All the secrets that were in it were also very fun to unlock. Having the big hologram of the veil was also very cool. Excalibur itself is also very fun to use. I really enjoy using it. And Verglass Curve, which is the seasonal exotic, the bow, is also very fun, and it's actually quite useful as well. So all of this, really enjoyed it. The only negative that I can say about the gameplay is that the second Battleground could just not exist. I really like the seasonal boons as well, I think is what they're called. The different things that pop up during the Battlegrounds and stuff. I think they also appear during Excalibur's mission. I really enjoyed them, thought they were really fun, making your grenade regen faster and your melee ability and all that sort of stuff. Really fun. I hope they continue doing that in the future. So the only real negative I have is that one Battleground. As for the missions, this is where we start getting into big negative territory, because they have been beating this template to death over the past few years, and hopefully they're changing it in the coming seasons, but it is long overdue. The template of week 1 being a bit of a bigger week in the season, and then just every week after it being like, you have to go to the holo projector, you have to go to a person in the actual vendor, you have to go to a battleground or a mission, and then you have to go talk to the holo projector again. You go talk to you don't talk to anybody, you listen to a private message between two characters. That template is being done to death. It is stale. They need to change it. The missions this season were very lacking. I believe there was only 2 story missions, so it was even worse than any other season recently. Because usually it would be go to the holo projector, go talk to somebody, that sort of thing, then you would go do an activity for a wee while, then you would unlock a mission. And that activity usually that you would have to do would be a new battleground or something like that. But then you would have a new mission, and then you would talk to people and whatever. This season you didn't have the new mission, you just had a battleground each week. And there was only 3 battlegrounds, so that's 3 weeks where there was new content. The 4th week had the mission where Manta died, the 5th week just had talking to people, and the last thing was the finale, which had a proper mission. So there was 2 missions. I did enjoy the last mission. I also liked that it didn't have an actual boss, but instead you were blowing up an engine. I didn't like that they approached it in the way of oh, we're all going to go, all of your allies, Devrim, Crow, Mithrax, we're all going to go and avenge Amanda on this ship. We're all going to help out. You're going to see us, we're going to be there. And I knew as soon as he said this in the dialogue, they're not going to be there. We're going to be told they're there. They're going to be on the comms, but we're not going to see him. And what happened? We didn't see him. We saw Mithrax through a window, teleporting and shooting a ball. Didn't kill anyone. It was more just like a diorama. They can do it. They had Kydal helping us in the last mission of Lightfall, for example. They can do it. They just choose not to. And it's really annoying. If they're gonna present a mission as having allies in it, the allies should be there. Controversial, I know, but anyway. The dialogue was as good as it ever is, even if the characters aren't actually there with you. The dialogue's usually amazing, and I can't really complain about that. So, yep. As for the aesthetics, both exotic weapons looked great. Excalibur looks amazing, Glass Curve looks really cool. The seasoned weapons also look really cool too. But I wasn't a big fan of the armor or the ornaments. That's just really a personal taste thing, I reckon. Some of the armor pieces looked good. The chest piece for the Hunter ornament looked pretty good, but aside from that, I'm not a big fan. But that's more of a point, not a negative, not a positive, just kind of like, that's just the way it is, you know? People have opinions. That's my opinion, so. And as for the seal, I didn't actually get it this time. Quite honestly, I ran out of time. I didn't play Destiny as much as I could have this season. But to be fair, this season was lacking, and Lightfall didn't impress me an awful lot, so I think I took a wee bit of a break from Destiny, basically. But the two main triumphs that I didn't get for the seal were just doing the Excalibur mission on Legendary and doing his Battleground on Legendary. So I would have said they were the most difficult triumphs for this season, but in comparison to the seals for the previous few seasons, I think Defiance was probably one of the easiest ones. I didn't get it because I didn't play the game, but I would have just have had to have done 4 things in Legendary, and I think I could have done that with an LFG. So at the end of the day, I think the seal wasn't incredibly challenging, time consuming I'd say, but even at that, not nearly as bad as other seasons. So whilst I didn't get it, I can't properly judge it, but I did do most of the triumphs. And if anything, I would say it maybe needed to have a bit more substance to it. But being a lacking season alongside the expansion, I think it's perfectly fine. But in conclusion, Season of Defiance was a bit of a lacking season in many aspects, mainly the story and the missions which kind of accompanied the story. Other than that, it was pretty good. I don't have an awful lot to complain about aside from those aspects. Given that it was the season accompanying Lightfall, I do have to kind of take that into account in my final review, my final rating of the season. If it were season 2 or 3 of Lightfall, I would give it a 4 out of 10. Because both those seasons should have a lot more content than what Season of Defiance has. But given that this is season 1 of Lightfall, season 1 of an expansion usually does have a lot less content than any other season during the year. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, which I think is pretty decent for the first season of an expansion, but they definitely could have done more, especially considering Lightfall wasn't very impressive. So that's all I have to say. I will probably make a short review of Season of Defiance, but we will see. And Season of the Deep comes out today, so I will make another video very, very soon. But please let me know what you think of Season of Defiance in the comment below. I'd be very interested to hear what your opinions are. And that's me until the next video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.